Hello, and welcome to episode 33 of the SomerKnits podcast. This is a podcast where I share about my knitting, what I'm working on, what I've recently finished, what I'd like to be working on, occasionally acquisitions, lots of plans. They don't all happen, but we all love to dream, don't we? And if you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. It's been a bit more than a month since I've had a chance to sit down and film. So I'm hoping that we can just have a bit of a catch up today. I do eventually want to do an Everything I Knit in 2022 episode, but it is very cold in my house today, and I don't want to be constantly changing sweaters, but I do want to be able to show the fit of all my knits and how they've held up to wear over time. In fact, I'd like to eventually do a video that shows all of my hand knit garments, how they've held up over time, and talk about how often I reach for each thing and why. Talk about how well the yarn holds up, whether or not things pill, and just go into a bit of detail there. And that's going to take a bit of prep work. I had hoped to do some of that prep work today, but off and on for the last couple of weeks, I've been spending a lot more time at the vet than I expected. I have a 15-year-old pug chihuahua, and he's had an enlarged heart and a heart murmur for most of his life, but if not his whole life. But he's at 15, potentially in congestive heart failure, and they are trying to get him on a good balance of meds to perk him back up and give him a reasonable quality of life. So he's back at the vet today, and all of the time that I had planned to spend preparing to film and everything, even so much as doing a good wash and blowout on my hair, it just didn't happen. So instead, we're just going to do kind of a normal podcast, more of a chat catch up, a little bit about some plans for 2023. I will eventually do a Make 9 video and show the yarns. Sorry, my voice just cracked. Show the yarns that I plan to use. But for now, we're just going to dive right into a good chat. I never did get to film an episode with all of the gift knits that I did for this Christmas. And most of those have been gifted, but I do have photos, and I will just do a quick run through of them. And I do have the ones I gave my own children still that I can show. And honestly, I don't even remember which ones were totally finished for the last episode. So if I run through something I already ran through before, I apologize. But I'll do my best to keep it not overwhelmingly long. And we're just going to dive right in. If you follow Stone Cottage Pottery and Farm on Instagram, I don't know that she's making again yet, but this is one of her snowy tree mugs from last winter's pre-order, I believe. And it's so cold in my house that even if I'm not drinking my tea, I kind of want to hold on to it. I don't really want to turn the heat up. Our weather has been so up and down. It was over 70 degrees on Sunday, which was excellent because my oldest had a birthday and we were able to be outside doing some activities for that. But then the weather has gone down again. So now it's a bit chilly outside, not as cold as it could be, but actually quite perfect for what I'm wearing now. And we'll talk about that. Did I say episode 33 a couple minutes ago? It's episode 34. I lose track. And honestly, I haven't even looked at the creator side of YouTube at all over the month of December since I put out my last podcast. So I had to go back and check, but it is episode 34. But let's talk about what I'm wearing, because this was on my needles a long time. I believe I cast it on towards the end of August. I looked at my notes the other day. It was like August 23rd or August 26th or something. And it is the Saglan pre-knit for AilbÍona McLochlainn. And it is my first Nutiden sweater. So this is, I used a strand of Nutiden and a strand of suri alpaca and held them together throughout the entire sweater. Um, there are two gauges for this sweater. There is a sport weight gauge and an Aran weight gauge. And I knit the sweater at the Aran weight gauge. It says you can use two strands of Nutiden, but I chose to do a strand of Nutiden and a strand of suri. And I like that because it's super light and airy. And in Oklahoma, it doesn't get below freezing for extended periods of time very often. And it happens that it just did right before Christmas. And of course, I didn't quite have this finished. I got close, but I didn't quite have it finished. So I couldn't wear it during that extended period of coldness. But I have it now for today's drop in temperature, and it's perfect. I am just right inside my house. I could probably go outside briefly, like walking to and from my car and going into a store or something without a jacket and be fine. The yarn combination just holds in the warmth, and it's so soft, but like I said, it's so light. It's like wearing a big fluffy cloud. There is a bit of prickle factor like up around my neck and on the more sensitive areas of my chest. And I do not have a camisole on under it right now. I feel like it is opaque enough that I don't have to have a camisole under it, even though it is such a light and airy gauge. But if I was going to wear it out all day long or to my office where the temperature seems to not be able to remain steady even throughout the course of a single day, I would wear a camisole under it just because of the tiny bit of prickle factor up on the more sensitive areas. But overall, it is perfect and comfy. I'm going to insert some full length footage so that you can see the whole thing. I will tell you that I made one big mistake that was just me not reading the pattern correctly and making assumptions. And that is that the collar rib and the cuffs are 2x2, and the hem of the sweater I did in 1x1, and I don't know why. I have no idea why I did that. I either didn't read or wasn't thinking. It is all supposed to be in the 2x2 rib. It actually looks fine, I think, and it's definitely not noticeable enough for me to rip it back and do it again. I really enjoyed knitting this. I enjoyed the difference in the construction at the top. But knitting with Nutiden was definitely slow for me. This being my first project with Nutiden or any kind of totally unspun yarn. And so it's just due to the nature of how easily the yarn pulls apart and everything, I just found it slower than most knitting would be at this gauge for me because I had to pay closer attention to my yarn. And so I didn't take it as an out and about project very often, even at times when it was just stockinette. I did do one of the sleeves going to my son's baseball games where I could sit still and be very careful about how I pulled the yarn out. But overall, I didn't take it out places with me. So it sat lacking one sleeve for the entire time I was doing gift knits until finally, I think it was the day after Christmas, I sat down with my sickly tiny dog because he needed to just sit still for a while and busted out the other sleeve over the course of, it was actually, I think, 2 days. But I love the fit. I think the sleeves are perfect. I am excited to get to wear this. It's supposed to be cold again tomorrow, so I think that I'm going to wear it to work, either with trousers or a skirt. I don't know yet, but it's just such a simple basic. It could even fall into the bougie sweatshirt category, and I know there's a knit-along going on right now with that name, and that could be fun. I don't know when the pattern is being published. I messaged the designer and asked, because in the original pre-knit request, The pattern was supposed to come out sometime in October, but the pre-knit as opposed to a test knit, our knit didn't have to be totally finished, just started, and a project created on Ravelry, and a progress photo or two. But I did post my finished sweater, and the one alteration I made after blocking was that I added really thin sewing elastic to just the very inside neck edge, because otherwise the collar was standing up a bit funny on me and I didn't think it was very flattering. So I just added that elastic to make the collar lay flat, and I think that made it perfection. Let's bang out some finished objects really quick. Things that I know you already saw in progress if you watched previous episodes. I finished the fire pit mitts for my son in Cascade 220 paints. So it's this blue, purple, kind of not quite variegated, almost tonal. I don't know. It's got lovely shade variation in it, but it's not like overwhelmingly variegated. And of course, I sewed little tags on there because when he loses them at school, they go to a pretty small school, and most of the teachers know my tags and can get my children's things back to them. And with hand knits, I hate for them to get lost. So I did tag both gloves. I made a pair of fire pit mitts for my sister, and I will insert a picture. And I only tagged one of those, and I used a different kind of tag. At the bottom, instead of sewing the heart tags on both sides, I did the kind like you see on a lot of hats where it folds over and is sewn to itself. And hopefully, since it's my sister, she can let me know, but hopefully that's not in the way of jackets or anything. It's only on one back side of one glove. And I'm going to see how she likes that versus how these hold up for my son, and see how I want to tag things like that in the future. But these are, they're big enough to go on my hand because they're very stretchy. They are a lovely pattern. I love that there's no ribbing to deal with. The instructions are super simple. It's a pattern by Taylor Earle, and she has the podcast Wool Needles Hands, or the Yarn Dyeing Business Fiber for the People. And so this one is just the Cascade 220 paints, and it's quite lovely, and I think it will be nice and durable because my son is 7, so kids that young are fairly hard on their hand knits. But my sisters are using scrap sock yarns, so some scraps from some Southern skeins and scraps from might be two. No, one is Southern skeins and the other one is Crystal Skies hand dyed. And so marling those with holding it with a strand of the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair that I used in the Chantilly vest that I did. So a navy mohair held with these variegated blue and green yarns. My sister graduated from Notre Dame Law School, so when I knit for her, a lot of times I knit in either white, navy, or green. And I had made her a hat last year at her request in white to go with a shamrock pin that we had found in a local store, and sewn that onto it and everything. So I was making her some mitts because she has a big dog and she lives in a city where she has to walk him constantly. She doesn't have like a yard. She lives in like a condo in a high rise. So she's walking her dog a lot, no matter what the weather is. And I thought it might be nice to have some fingerless mitts so she can still reach for treats, and she can still use her phone, but her hands can be nice and toasty. And so I knit those. I knit the small size in both, but I knit hers at a slightly looser gauge with the 2 strands of sock yarn and the strand of soft silk mohair. So whereas his are like thick and durable feeling, hers are super soft and luxurious feeling. Same pattern, different yarn combo. I love how your yarn choice and the way you can put things together can completely change a pattern. And I could see myself knitting a bunch of these because every combo could come out slightly different, and the feel, the vibe, the overall use of the object can change just based on what yarns you grab. Um, and I loved doing a lot of that this Christmas, using some stash and some scraps to make things that were going to be useful for other people. Um, so I did that with 3 other gifts. I believe in my last episode, I showed the 2 pairs of bare paw socks that I made over the long weekend, where Andrea Mowry put out every year. She puts out a pattern in the fall, and the goal is to knit a pair of socks over a long weekend. And her bare paw socks were a DK weight, and they were so quick to knit that I did 2 pairs, busting out 2 Christmas gifts over the Thanksgiving break, which was awesome. And I used entirely stash and scrap for those. And then, because I didn't gauge swatch, one of the pairs came out larger than intended, and so it wasn't going to fit my sister-in-law. So, and it was really apparent after blocking them that it was not even going to be like slipper socks, like just too big, which is fine because I was able to gift them actually to my brother. That's how much too big they came out. And then I knit a pair of the Thickmas vanilla socks by Summer Lee instead to give to my sister-in-law out of the same yarns that I used for the bare paw socks, with the addition of a different contrast mini that I happen to have in my stash. That was kind of a rusty red and a light brown. And the tones in that went perfectly with the tones in the variegated and speckled yarn that I was using for the bare paw socks. So I was able to bust out a pair of Thickmas vanilla socks for my sister-in-law and work through even more of that scrap, to the point that I finished off the lighter color that I had been using, because I had used that for cuffs, heels, and maybe toes in the first pair of bare paw socks. So I'd gone through more of that sock yarn. So I ran out of that and just used the rest of, the contrast mini basically, in addition to the speckled yarn. And you can't even really tell. I'll put pictures in here, but you can't really tell that I had to switch yarns. And even if you can, that's the part that's going to be down inside your shoe, or if you're using them as house socks, who cares? I was just glad to bust through some stash and make useful things out of them, things I felt good gifting. And this year, I printed labels off. I just Googled hand knit sock labels and printed them off and wrapped my pairs of socks so that they looked professionally wrapped before actually wrapping them as gifts. So they have care instructions on the back, and then the labels went around the pairs of socks, and then I tucked them neatly into tissue paper and wrapped them up all nice. And I just thought that was a lot of fun, because I felt like there was even a little bit more wow factor opening the gifts with them looking so neat and tidy with the labels. I don't think it affects the impression of the actual knitting. I just liked the presentation of it, and I thought it looked good. And I had a lot of fun doing it. And I put hand knit labels around the gloves and things as well, just not the sock ones. So that was amazing, and I was well on my way to using stash yarn for all my gifts, except that Small Business Saturday got me. And if you remember from the last video, if you watched that one, I bought this beautiful purple yarn to knit for my cousin's baby, and I did a school run hat baby. And I did get the pom-poms on that, and I did finish the tiny pair of bare paw socks to go with it. And those are all wrapped up. I'll insert a photo. But also, because the Yarn Adventure truck was in town, I ended up getting a skein of yarn to make my son a Musselburgh hat, because that is now his favorite style of hat. And I've long loved the look of Yarn Hero. It's very similar to Spin Cycle in the way that the colors shift throughout the skein. So I bought a single skein, and this is my son's Musselburgh hat. So I knit until I was pretty darn sure there was barely enough left to do the decreases. And I was right, there is not much of this left. But you can see the color shift from the beginning all the way to the end. You might even see where my gauge shifts a little bit. I started out on wooden needles and I moved to metal just for the glide, and you can see where it loosens up a bit, but it doesn't matter. He loves it both directions, but you do get a bit different look each way. It is the adult small / child large or whatever in the Musselburgh pattern. This is a pattern by Ysolda Teague, and I just love it. It's such a delightful pattern to just take with you as on-the-go knitting, because so much of it is just stockinette in the round and you don't really have to pay attention to it. The increases and decreases look so nice. I just love it. There's so little finishing that it's just perfect. So it's long enough to be a bit floppy on him, and I'll try and insert a photo of him wearing it. But he was thrilled on Christmas morning. He was very excited, and I managed to knit it all without him seeing it. So I only worked on it at night or when I wasn't around him. And I think he was really happy. Just a couple more Christmas gift knits to get through before moving on. If you remember, I decided to use some of my handspun to knit a hat for my husband. And this is the first time that I have actually used my handspun by itself to knit an entire item, not just a little bit of it in something, and I'm pretty happy with it. It is kind of heavy because I do think I overplied it a little bit, and it ended up a little ropey in places, but I just used the 1x1 rib beanie pattern from Purl Soho. It's a free pattern, and it has a nice long brim on it so that it can be folded. It could be folded twice even if you wanted a more fitted like watch cap look, but I was assuming he would just want it folded once over his ears where it's nice and thick, and it made for a really nice, cozy, super stretchy hat. I was very happy with this. I believe I knit it on 3mm needles, so it did take a while. I also wanted it to be a surprise, so I did not work on it around him. So I took it on the go. The kids knew I was working on it. So it was okay if they were around. Like if I was out with them, I would take it. But I did not work on it while he was around because I wanted it to be a surprise. So it was definitely getting fairly close to Christmas before I finished the decreases and bound off. And I really did go until I thought there was only enough yarn left for the decreases. And towards the end, I really wondered if I was going to be playing yarn chicken. But there was a little wad left after, so it wasn't too bad. It never got down to where it was super stressful. But I'm just really happy with this. I don't know how well you can see up close. There's so much variation in the color in the yarn. So it's one ply is just a solid light gray, and the other ply is from a hand-dyed fiber. The colorway name was Admiral Blue, and I don't even remember who the fiber was by. But it has flecks of red, flecks of green. The overall color is blue, especially from a distance. It's very blue. But in that particular ply, in that fiber itself, there's lots of flecks of color. So up close, it has a whole lot of dimension, and I really like that about this. So I'm very happy with this. I'll have to look and see what the name of the pattern was, because I know they have a few free hat patterns, but this is the one where the whole thing is in 1x1 rib. And I like how neat the decreases look at the top. You can tell that my spinning isn't perfect, so there's definitely areas of thick thin, and that is okay with me. He seems happy with it, and he's worn it a couple of times. So one more Christmas gift knit before we move on. Okay, the last of the Christmas gift knits. Definitely the longest and most involved of the Christmas gift knits, but one of the most satisfying to give because she was so excited. This is the Ballet Wrap cardigan that I was working on. I used a free pattern by Lion Brand that's actually meant for, I think they're merino, but I used 2 strands of Filcolana Arwetta and 1 strand of Filcolana Tilia. It is meant to, it's very hard for me to hold up because it's so drapey, but it is meant to cross over and wrap around a couple of times and tie again in the front. So the straps are, or the belt is very, very long. And I will put in a picture, hopefully. Maybe. Anyway, it's super cute. It's super soft. It fits her better than I realized it would, meaning it is more fitted on her than maybe I intended it to be. And I do think over time it's going to stretch out, so that will be fine. And I do think I could also, I was careful when I was blocking it not to block extra width into the back. So I think I could, if she grows, block more width into the back. But as it is right now, it fits perfectly. She's excited to wear it to dance. She even wore it to gymnastics last night. She took it off before they went out there to actually work out, but like going in and out of the building where it's cold. So she's definitely excited about this one. It took a while. I did not realize when I started it that it was knit in so many pieces. Like each section, you start with knitting a long piece and you pick up and then you knit the section. So there was a back panel, each front panel. And so each time you're knitting, you like knit this piece, pick up, and you're working from there. And it's a free pattern, so I don't mind talking about the details of it. And I think it's to give it this nice rolled hem, but it means that you're knitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because you start at the bottom of the sleeve and work up. So then you got to do that again. 9, 10. Got to sew all these pieces together. And then you got to pick up on each side and do the belt. And the belt has increases in it so that you get a wider piece at the end. And I did go ahead and put one of my tags on there. On this side, on the heart-shaped side, the thread gets a little close to the writing if you're just sewing back and forth through it. On the other side, there's plenty of space between the thread and the writing. And I can link the shop where I buy my tags if anybody's actually interested in that. But you pick up there, and then you do it again on the other side. Same thing. You knit the long belt with the increases. And then all of this has to be, like I said, seamed up. Then you pick up for that. And then you have the ends to weave in. Every stinking place. It's a lot. Would I do it again? No. No, I would not. I would keep searching for the perfect pattern. And I understand. It's gorgeous finished. It looks perfect on her. It's wonderful. There was a pattern that came out in December at some point that was a wrap cardigan, and now I would have to go back to Instagram and try and find it again. Or maybe it would be on Ravelry, but I saw it and I was like, man, if that had been out when I was searching for ballet wrap cardigans, I'd have picked that one. And just done whatever the smallest size was, or maybe even tried to tighten up the gauge so that I could get a kid size out of an adult pattern. which is what I did with this. I knit the smallest size in the pattern. It is an adult pattern. I did knit it. She wears like a 10, 12, sometimes 14, depending on sizing is all over the place in the garment industry. But it's super cute. I do love it. I love the color. It's adorable. So that is, I think, the last Christmas gift knit that I needed to talk about. That wraps that up. So moving on to works in progress and other random nonsense. I just showed you the Ballet Wrap cardigan, which came out gorgeous, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I can bust out a pair of leg warmers. Now, my daughter's birthday is January 2nd, which is like super quick after Christmas, and I don't know why I thought I could bust out a pair of leg warmers because I was crazy. But I started with the yarns that I had used for the Ballet Wrap cardigan, which one of them, let me roll this back so you can see it better, is a variegated or tonal hand dyed. It's definitely pink and white. And it is from Southern Skeins, and it was called Peacock. And it came with minis. Sorry, they're a bit messy from banging around in a bag. It came with mini skeins called Lawn Ornament, which I thought was a cute name. But so this color, and then the Filcolana Arwetta, and the Filcolana Tilia. So instead of using the all pink like I did with the Tilia and the Arwetta to, I think maybe when I was talking about the wrap cardigan, I said it was 2 strands of Arwetta. It's not. It's 1 strand of Arwetta, 1 strand of Tilia, and 1 strand of the Southern Skeins sock, to get that more variegated look in the overall pink. So I started knitting with holding a mini with the Arwetta and the Tilia, so not using the pink tonal. And I feel like the overall look, maybe it's the mohair, but it has come out muddy looking, and I'm not liking it. So my intention originally in doing the pink Arwetta and the variegated Lawn Ornament and the pink Tilia was to stay with the pink and black uniform theme of her ballet studio. They have to wear black leotard, pink tights, so I did the pink wrap sweater, and I was going to do pink and black leg warmers, but it's coming out muddy and I don't like it. Instead of looking intentional, it just looks busy. And so I don't know if I should swatch the Arwetta and the Lawn Ornament without the Tilia. I'm totally open to opinions, but without the mohair, basically, to see if just the 2 yarns together looks less muddy and more intentional. My plan was to only have, because I only have the 2 mini skeins of Lawn Ornament, and I still have a number of skeins of the Arwetta. I have a skein and a half of the Tilia, and I still have a partial skein of the original Peacock Southern Skeins color. So my original thought was that I would just do the ribbing section at the top and bottom with the variegated that had the black in it, and the center would be all pink. And I like the mohair for the softness, but maybe I just don't need it in leg warmers. Maybe I just abandon the Tilia and swatch it up with the Arwetta and the Lawn Ornament, and then the center being the Arwetta and Peacock, and see how that looks overall. But This was just an evening of knitting after the kids had gone to bed, and the more I looked at it, the less I liked it. So I just stopped because I didn't want to continue to put time in on something that I was going to look at and not like. So I just stopped on it, and it's just been sitting there kind of marinating in my mind. It's been sitting where I could look at it, and it hasn't grown on me, and I'm just not loving it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts, because I just want to do, see, it's nice and stretchy. I just want to do little leg warmers that she can wear. She says the studio is fairly cold sometimes. And she used to have little leg warmers, but I think she's outgrown them. So I just thought it would be nice to have a pretty pair that she could wear to dance. But that's not like a big rush. It was just something I was going to try and bust out, and started it, didn't love it, set it aside, because the next day, the yarn for my next test knit came in the mail. Before we get to the test knit, though, let's talk about a couple of things that have been on the needles a bit longer. First up, let's talk about my abandoned Advent socks. Not that they've been fully abandoned. I've been keeping them in my backpack and working on them as I can. But I got to the point where I was not keeping up with a stripe a day because I really wanted to focus on some gift knits. So I don't know that I will do an Advent skein again next year because I just don't think I can keep up with it. I could do like an after Christmas one where like I'm done with gift knits and just give myself a stripe a day for fun. But, this is coming out gorgeous and I love it. This is the Tea with the Bridgertons colorway, which was an Advent skein done by Area 51 Fibres. I believe she's in Canada, and I just, when the inspiration was posted, the colors appealed to me so much more than some of the other Advent skeins I'd seen out there, and I felt like the overall look of the finished sock was going to be more in my color scheme, more something that I would want to wear. So I did get the contrast mini, and I did do a short row heel. I used a pattern called Puzzle Box Socks, I believe. So there is a slip stitch pattern. I believe it's a free pattern, but there is a slip stitch pattern in there so that you're not just doing straight stripes. But the straight stripes do look good. The underside of the foot does not have the slip stitches, so you can see what it would look like with just the straight up striping under there. And it looks great. Like it totally would have been fine to do that too. I was just trying to find something to add a little bit of interest to the overall process, so I was doing the slip stitch pattern. So I did 4 stripes of 2x2 ribbing and then went into the body of the sock. And so I'm doing one of them magic loop, and I think this is kind of a fun experiment. And I'm doing the other one on double pointed needles. So I love this double pointed needle case because that's the hardest part about double pointed needles is putting them in your bag without losing the work. So I've been counting the rounds on the stripes and stuff to see if my gauge is fairly consistent. And I believe it is overall. The double pointed needles might be slightly tighter in gauge than the magic loop, just the nature of how I knit, but also a short row heel here. I do enjoy using double pointed needles. It's been a while since I did it, but I remember why I like them. I am finding this particular yarn a bit splitty with double points where it hasn't been splitty at all on the magic loop. So is that my particular double pointed needles? Is it just the yarn? I don't know. It's been a while since I did a sock on double pointed needles, so the novelty of doing it again was interesting to me and motivating. So I am still working on both those socks 2 at a time. They are still in a Christmas bag, and I'm fine with them staying in it. This is one of my favorite small Christmas bags. It came in the Advent I got last year, which was the Bright Rainbow by the Creative Knitter, also a Canadian dyer. But I just love this little bag. I love that it has the handle for slipping over your wrist so you can knit on the go. It's a great little bag. I cast on the Cumulus blouse on September 24th. And then shortly after casting it on and getting it started the test knit for the Chantilly vest. And so it languished for a while. But after I finished the Saglin, while I was waiting on the yarn for my newest test knit, I picked it back up again, got past the rest of the initial increases enough to join in the round and start the body. And I don't have a ton of length past the join yet, only about this much in the underarm so far. But I am loving the feeling of this fabric so much that I am very excited to work on this. It's been on my Make 9 for 2 years now. I believe it's been at least 2 years since I bought the yarn for it. The pattern is written, I believe, for 2 strands of mohair, but I am using Knit Picks Gloss Lace, which is a gorgeous lace weight, I believe, merino silk blend. And this is, I think, the cobalt colorway. I can't remember exactly, but it's a lovely bright blue. It is one of my ideal blues. My favorite color's been blue my whole life, every shade of it. And I love a good cobalt blue, but I like blues all the way from like blurples, like purple blues, all the way into the greener blues to the aquas, turquoises. I love a good seafoam green. Anything on that blue spectrum I enjoy, but I adore this bright cobalt blue. Also, I forget how many years ago it was now, but I've had my colors done. And this blue is actually such a good color for my skin that I am so excited to wear this because I feel like this color just lights me up and looks so good. It is so soft, so bouncy. It's just amazing. And I can't believe it took me so long to get around to casting this on. I'm sorry if I'm shaking the table that the camera's on and making it go all wonky. But I'm just so excited about this one. This is now my purse project, if you will, because the body is all stockinette in the round. Sorry, I've gotten it tangled because I took it with me this morning running errands. But you're just knitting stockinette in the round for the whole body, and you can see the gauge. It's pretty tiny stitches. Even though it's a loose and airy gauge and it's not a small needle size. I've had this set of interchangeable needles so long, they're from Knit Picks, that it was before they started printing the needle size on the needles. So I don't remember what needle size I'm using. Hopefully, I was smart and put it in Ravelry. I'm trying to get better about putting my needle sizes on my Ravelry project pages, but I believe it's whatever is recommended in the pattern. So it's not tiny needles, but it is a lot of stitches because it is a super tiny yarn and thin fabric, but I'm just so excited about this blouse. Like I said, it's been in my Make 9 for like 2 years, and it was on my queue long before that on Ravelry, before I even knew about Make 9 and all of that, like when I was just using my queue. So I'm just really excited about this particular project, but it is one that could be a slow burn because, every once in a while, stockinette in the round just gets monotonous and you want something a little more interesting, a little more engaging for your brain. And so there are other patterns that will probably come and go as I work on this one, but it's just great for on the go because not only is it just stockinette in the round at this point now that I have gotten past the split for sleeves, but it scrunches down, even though I'm using 2 cakes, and each cake was 800 yards to start with. Um, but it scrunches down pretty small because it's such a lightweight garment. So my 2 cakes are sitting flat, lined up in the bottom of my bag. This is a Southern Skeins project bag. And the whole thing squishes into the top, drawstrings closed, and it will fit in like a large messenger bag. It will fit in my backpack. It's easy to just toss on the passenger seat in the car when I'm going to sit in car line to pick up the kids. Like, it's just an easy project to take with me. And I'm very excited about the finished product as well. So this is the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. It's been made a zillion times, and I love the way it looks on pretty much everybody. So I'm excited to have it. I think it's going to be very office worthy. I think it'll look good with a pencil skirt. I think it'll look good with jeans. I just think it's going to be a versatile piece. And the weight of this particular piece, I think, will be good for the climate in which I live. We're finally getting to it. My most recent test knit. I've alluded to it a number of times throughout the episode, and this is my primary focus right now. I am test knitting the Eclair sweater for the lovely Laura of Penrose Knits. Test knitting for Laura this year has been wonderful. Her test knit communities are just so caring and inspiring and supportive and lovely. I just can't say enough good things about test knitting for Laura. And this is a test knit I had not intended to do. I wasn't going to sign up for it. Because I had such a long list of things I wanted to make this winter, I was just like, I'm going to pass on this one and I'm not going to sign up for it. And so when I got an email from Laura asking if I would consider test knitting the Eclair, I thought about it for a little while, and I decided, you know what? One of the things I do want in my wardrobe is a tunic length cozy sweater that I can wear with leggings, and I can envision it with all different things, but mostly I'm thinking like leggings and out and about, even date night kind of thing, but just a simple cozy tunic sweater. And this one happens to be an all over cable knit sweater. Well, the sleeves are stockinette, but and I've never done a garment with bubbles. I have multiple patterns that I have bought or accumulated that have baubles in them. And I always think they look so good on other people. And I'm just never sure if I'm going to feel like it's random nipples sticking out all over the place or something on me. I don't know what it is holding me back from the baubles. But I went back and forth on whether I was even going to include the baubles in this particular piece, and I decided I am doing the baubles on the front only because I feel like on the back, when I'm sitting in my chair at my desk at my office, that baubles on the back might bother me. And so I asked around in the test knit group, and a number of people were just doing them on the front, which I thought was brilliant because I do want to do garments that have features that I haven't done before, so that not all of my garments are like exactly the same. I don't need them to all be plain stockinette knit sweaters. I would like differences. So the difference here is that I'm going to do an all over cable knit sweater, and it has bubbles. This is, like I said, going to be tunic length with a split hem. There are options for a standard length, regular hem, or a tunic length split hem in the pattern. There are 2 neckline options, and I believe one's a folded collar and the other's more of a funnel neck. And I am going to do the folded collar because I don't think I would wear the funnel neck option at all. But the shaping on this is intuitive and lovely, and I'm to the point where I'm not even looking at the chart. I have made myself a checklist so that I don't forget where I am in the repeats. But it just, it's just coming together so nicely. I cast it on, I did the swatch, I think, New Year's Eve, or I cast it on New Year's Eve. I'm trying to remember now. So it's only been a few days because today is Wednesday, January 4th when I'm filming. I don't know how long it'll take me to edit and get this posted, but this is only a few days of work and mostly evenings because I am back to work now. Oh, everything's backwards on the screen. So this is the front that has the baubles, obviously, and then the back, dropping everything, where I didn't do the baubles, but you can see the lovely cables coming together, and I'm holding it up side down, obviously, because the neckline is going to be up here. So I'll have to go in and pick up for the neckline, and I believe the tentative, projected, whatever you want to call it, the goal release for this sweater is the first week of February. The test knit technically started before Christmas, but a number of us were unable to start until we got past the gift knitting, which Laura allowed time for. It's a nice long test knit, and we're only required to get the yoke and one sleeve done, which is amazing. And the sleeves are stockinette, so I don't feel like the sleeve is going to be a problem at all. I don't even feel like the yoke is a problem at all because it is flying. It is a joy to knit. This pattern was designed in Filcolana Peruvian Highland Wool, and I have chosen to do it in the recommended yarn. Sorry if I'm bouncing the camera. There was a discount provided by knit.co.uk for the test knit. I did still purchase the yarn, but we did get a slight discount on it in both the recommended yarn and a few other appropriate substitute yarns. But I chose to go with Snow White, which is coming up really, really white on screen. But in actuality, if I can find something super white to hold it against, is a creamier white. It's not as yellow as natural, but if you consider this to be white, you can see that there's a bit more of a cream to the yarn, and it's more obvious in person. Obviously, the artificial lighting here is skewing colors a little bit here and there, but this is so much fun to knit. So even though it wasn't in my original plans, I can't recommend it enough, and you're going to want to keep an eye out for the release of this sweater because it's such a good sweater. There's another cable knit sweater in testing right now. That's the Dorney sweater by Rebecca of the Crayabea that also looks like one of those just like lovely knits that just draws you in and that you just want to keep going on. And that is definitely the vibe from this one. Like I just one more round, I'm enjoying the feel of knitting on it so much. So I'm so glad I said yes to this test knit, even though there are 1,000 things I want to knit. And every time I go into my craft room and look at my yarn, I'm like, and I want to start this, then I want to start this, and I want to start this. The actual process of knitting this has been so lovely. And I know it's only been a few days. So I'm excited for the progress of this sweater overall. Just took a look at the clock, and I need to not forget to pick my kids up from school on time. So hopefully not too much longer on the chit chat. Otherwise, I will not be able to get this edited and posted in a reasonable amount of time. I have one more work in progress, and it is something that I've wanted to do for a few years now, and I'm finally just going for it. I am doing a temperature blanket. So let me start. I went and printed out the temperature blanket how-to guide by Billy and Ba. And I don't really need the how-to part. I know how a temperature blanket works. Like, I got that part. But I wanted a place to collect all of the information for my temperature blanket in one spot. So this is a free printout, and I bound it myself. We have a bookbinding machine at my office. So I just bound it to keep it all nice and neat. So there are tips and tricks and pattern ideas if you don't know what you want to make. But what I really wanted was the place to record my colors, and my project specifics. I haven't filled out some of this yet because I finally decided on the pattern and started and whatever, but I'll go back and fill it all out. But then I like that every month has a page and you fill in the high and low temperature and then what color from your color chart you are using. So I numbered all mine. I'm not using, some people use markers or colored pencils to fill in the dots, show what color they're using. I numbered mine and I wrote down the location. So the rules for my temperature blanket, and every month has a page like that. So you can keep everything together. If you get behind, you just pick up your booklet and you go day by day to add your stripe for the temperature. I guess if you're unfamiliar with the concept of a temperature blanket, I do not know if you can see that the lights are flickering, but the power in my neighborhood has been ridiculous for about the last year, and it's getting worse. And everyone in the neighborhood has contacted the power company, and still our electricity is flickery. It's fabulous. But back to temperature blankets. If you're not familiar with a temperature blanket, generally you record the temperature each day by doing a stripe in a particular color, and that represents the temperature each day of the year, and you do it for a whole year usually. And you can pick like a historic year and do it all at once. You can pick the current year and do it like I'm doing. So I have picked a free pattern on Ravelry, the Excavation by Hypnotizer. It is written for scrap sock yarn, basically, and it is written to use a size 2 knitting needle. I'm not doing that. I am using worsted weight yarn. I'm using a size 8 wooden needle, and this is the start of my teeny tiny temperature blanket. So a lot of temperature blankets, you do the same size stripe every day. And so you're going widthwise on the blanket. A lot of them are garter, but some people do like granny stripe or other things. I mean, there's all kinds of ways. There's no wrong way to do a temperature blanket, but the Excavation blanket has the added benefit of not having any ends to weave in because all your ends are used as fringe. So each day you knit that day and cut it and knot it off, and it becomes part of, the fringe is part of the blanket. And it grows all the way to the middle and then starts decreasing again. The advantage to this is that next December, when I am busy with gift knitting, I will be back on the teeny tiny short rows towards the end of the blanket. So even though I'm super excited to start now and the short rows are kind of like, oh, that's all I get to do today, next December, future me is going to thank current me for doing this because each day won't be quite as long a commitment. Whereas the middle of the year, over the summer, I should have the time to put in to do the much longer diagonal rows for each day. The midpoint of the year, the center day, is July 2nd. So I'll be increasing all the way to July 2nd, and then I will begin decreasing. You might be able to hear my dog walking around shaking his collar. That's the big dog, not the dog that's sick. But anyway, it's Excavation is the pattern. I'm using a size 8. I'm using worsted weight yarn. I'm expecting a full-size blanket by the time I'm done. Not just a little square, but like, because her blanket using size 2 needles came out 45 inches by 50 inches. I am expecting a dang big blanket by the end of the year. And yes, I will probably have to go buy more yarn. But let's talk about what you really want to know, the yarn colors. I mean, that's what I would want to know. So, organization of the temperature blanket. Yes, this is Christmas paper, but this was my husband's advent calendar box, which is actually just a wine box. And I use wine boxes every year to make him an advent calendar because the inserts in wine boxes have 12 little spaces. So 2 wine boxes makes a 24-day advent calendar. Just pro tip. Been doing it for a long time. Anyway, I took one of the wine boxes and I lined up all my yarn. So it's all there, ready to go. Each day, I just grab the color I need. So you can see the ones I've used so far already have little ends poking out. My temperature ranges are, starting with color 1, 0 to 10, I believe. Let me check. I wrote it all down, and this is why I wrote it all down. The high temperature is very, very rarely, like almost never, below 0 Fahrenheit where I live. So 0 to 10, 11 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 to 89, 90 to 99, and over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So those are my colors. They're all lined up nicely. They should stay lined up nicely. They may get a little falling over when some skeins start to get smaller. I may have to go back and buy more. I do not usually like to shop at Hobby Lobby. In fact, I do not promote shopping at Hobby Lobby if I can help it. But I was given a $50 Hobby Lobby gift card a few years ago for Christmas, and I needed to use it, and I felt like they shouldn't just get to keep the money without having to give me stuff, because that's even worse than going and buying stuff from them. So I did go get my yarn at Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn. But I did not spend any actual money. I waited till there was a sale. I used the gift card. I'm hopeful that I can get through most of the blanket with what I have. It's possible I will have to get more. But originally, before I was like, I should just use that dang gift card up, I was going to use probably Vanna's Choice from Michaels, because it is readily available in a ton of colors, and there is a Michaels really close to where I live. So that would have been very easy, and that was my plan. And if there are colors that color match close enough, I may, if I have to refresh my colors, continue in that particular yarn, because I would rather spend my money at Michaels. They more closely align with my values. But anyway, this is the start of my temperature blanket, and I think it's going to be so much fun, and I love the idea of not having to weave in any ends. I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about acquisitions today. I did get yarn as Christmas gifts from my husband and kids and from my parents, but we'll get to that yarn when we get into the 2023 knitting plans. For now, I just want to talk about one yarn that I did actually order. I guess I should grab my Southern Skeins boxes for the last month. But anyway, let's talk about the yarn I ordered. Because if you'll remember, I've tried multiple times to make this yellow Nutiden work, and I just couldn't make it work for me. I tried lightening it with white or natural suri, the suri I ended up using in this. I tried lightening it with a yellow soft silk mohair, the Filcolana Tilia mohair, actually, in that super light yellow that I used to make my Chantilly cardigan, and nothing worked. Each swatch, I still didn't love it, because up close, there's a whole lot of, I think that we don't have quite enough light in here today, and it's getting a little grainy, but up close, there's a whole lot of dark strands and bits in this particular Nutiden, okay? So it's not as light a yellow as it looks in the photos on their site. It is a pretty dark yellow. So the lovely Simona of knit.co.uk, she helped me by taking lots of pictures of different mohairs that she had in stock. And we decided on this Filcolana Tilia again, in the colorway Tapenade. It is like this bronzy color, but it leans, on screen it's leaning a little bit green, and it leans a little bit green in photos, but in person it's super bronze, okay? So it's like really bronze. And I am going to swatch it up with this yellow Nutiden, and I'm gonna see if we can't come up with a color I like for my husband, because he's dark haired and hazel eyed, and colors that don't look good on me, those warmer colors, look good on him. He looks good in like the slightly yellower greens and warmer browns and things like that. And I think that he would actually look really good in this color. So I'm going to swatch these up and hope that I get something I like, because I am going to try and get gauge for the single malt by Max the Knitter. I've wanted to make this for my husband since it came out, and I chatted a little bit on Instagram with Jonathan from Jonathan's Days, and it's funny, he and my husband have almost the same chest circumference and they are the same height. So since I don't want to reveal to my husband my plans to do this, because I would like it to be a surprise, and I know a surprise sweater is a lot of work, but I would like it to be a surprise. I've been chatting with Jonathan about fit, and he's been very helpful, and I'm going to plan to do the size 3 in the single malt, and hopefully I can get gauge, because I believe it's an Aran weight gauge. I have enough of the Nutiden that I can hold it double if I need to in order to get gauge. Yes, it's an Aran weight gauge, and it is knit on US size 8 or 5mm needles. And then the ribbing is on a US 6 or 4mm needle, or 2 sizes smaller than whatever your needle that you used to get gauge was. So that's the plan. The next plan for this poor yellow Nutiden that I have tried and tried. But hopefully, third time's the charm. This one's a winner, I hope. That is the goal. Like I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about acquisitions, but I do want to share my Southern Skeins December sock box. The project bag is a little Christmas scene. You can see little trees on top of the cars and the snowy covered houses. And the sock set is called Christmas Cheer December 2022. It's an 80-20 merino, superwash merino nylon blend. The main skein is 400 yards, the mini skein is 80, and I get the deluxe box, so there are two. So there's the 2 minis and the 2 main skeins, and I thought what could be fun, since I have 2 of them and I could do it oversized, would be to follow the pattern for the magpie tendency, which I've done before in like Easter egg colors with a single sock set, except do it more oversized with 3/4 length sleeves. I love using the contrast for the neckline and the saddle shoulders and the bind off at the bottom. And I know with 2 minis, there would be plenty for that. And you could even use it, I believe I used it for just the bind off on the short sleeves when I did it before. But you could use it for the bind off again on the 3/4 or long sleeve. I was thinking 3/4 sleeve, but I will probably wait until next fall to work that up, because I'm just not really inspired to work on Christmas colors right now. Christmas is past. It's arrived on Christmas Eve, so there wasn't like time for me to want to work it up before Christmas actually happened. And that is one of the only drawbacks. I love her surprise boxes, her sock box and her not sock box, but a lot of times I feel like the theme color needs to be a month earlier than the actual holiday. So like the Halloween not sock box, because the not sock box ships at the end of the month and the sock box ships at the middle of the month, arrived after Halloween. which is fine, but I would have been more excited to receive the Halloween box at the end of September, just like I would have been more excited to receive the Christmas skeins at the end of November than I was to get them. I mean, I was still excited to get them on Christmas Eve, but not to work them up right away. So they'll be going into stash. But the extras that came with that were, oh, it's all tangled. A little ornament, a snowflake ornament that has a little package on it and a bow. And a Happy Hands hand cream, which is shea butter, sunflower, and aloe, and it's specifically made for crafters. The fragrance says Three Kings, frankincense, and myrrh. I have not tried it yet. And then the stitch marker is adorable. It is, oh, it's backwards. It's a little glove with a snowflake. So, super cute, not sock yarn box. Now for the sad news. I believe that I may have to stop my Southern Skein subscription for a little while. Hopefully not forever, but my stash is reaching proportions that are starting to feel super overwhelming. And I can shop my stash for almost any kind of project I want to do. I was not able to shop my stash for yarn for the test knit I'm doing because I don't have a lot of Aran weight yarn in my stash, but I have a ton of DK and a ton of sock, which is what her surprise boxes are. The not sock box no longer changes bases. I believe the not sock box is now always DK, and then the sock box is, of course, always sock yarn. So I believe that I'm going to stop my subscription. And that makes me kind of sad because I love getting the surprise in the mail every month. I love having those skeins to reach for and being inspired by the new colorways, different things I want to make. There are multiple magpie tendencies on my list right now because of some of those colorways. And I just think that that's a fabulous way to use them. But just because my stash is becoming so overwhelming, and I don't tend to run through the smaller skeins of yarn like on accessories as much during the year as maybe I do at Giftmas time. I just think it would be the responsible thing to do. Also, the vet bills are definitely adding up right now with our small dog, and it just seems like the financially responsible thing to do to cut out any extra expenses that aren't needed right now. And that does include that particular subscription box. So that might be the last one for a while if I get it stopped in time to not have the January one. But that's where I am on that. The next thing I want to talk about is, I mean, it's kind of acquisitions, but it's mostly about how amazing this community that we've built here is. I've made some wonderful friends, both here in the US and across the pond, and I am so grateful for every single one of you. But some people, in response to my Holiday Joy campaign, if you will, sent back some Holiday Joy, and I got some lovely Christmas cards, but also some surprise gifts in the mail. And I really want to thank those people so much. So my lovely friend Claudia, because I really liked the small package that she sent last year of the chocolate covered gingerbread, sent me this huge box, which is about half gone now, plus this tin, which is about half gone now. I have been sharing it. Plus a lovely note. And a few little gifty items, including a sock blank that has been dyed and rolled and basically looks like a little croissant. It's the colorway is graffiti, and it says it's a 75-25, and it has 425 meters in the 100 grams, and there is a little flower stitch marker attached to it, and it's mostly purples and greens, and so I'm excited to see how that knits up. It's gorgeous. She also sent a couple of pairs of needles that weren't working for her. These are Chow Twist in shorty sizes. There's a 2-inch and a 3-inch in a US 1.5 or a 2.5 millimeter, which is awesome because that's a less common size for me to find around here. There is this little pin. Isn't he cute? Whoop, there he is. A delicious soap that is jasmine. A luxurious golden sparkle bath bomb. I mean, the gifts, I was just overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed. And then these adorable little stitch markers. So I've been not using these things on purpose so far so that I could show them to all of you. And now I am so excited to put them to use. But I didn't want anything to get misplaced before I was able to show it. So I just kept it all packaged. I just want to say a huge thank you to Claudia. But I also want to say a big thank you to Marie. I hope I don't mispronounce your last name. Bjork. She sent a totally unexpected surprise box with hilarious stickers on the outside. It had my name on it even. That's super exciting. But it was totally unexpected and so thoughtful and lovely. I love the little card. And she sent me a big, heavy chocolate bar. Not that I can read anything on it. But I do know the word chocolate, and I am super excited about that. And some teas that all sound very interesting. A ginger lemon. This cookies and cream sounds really intriguing, and I love that it says longing for adventure on it. This one says wonders of the world, and it says truffle and chocolate. Does it mean truffle like sweets, like chocolate truffles, or does it mean truffle like the mushroom truffle? I don't know, but interested. Black tea with apple and blackcurrant. I love blackcurrant. From the summers that I spent in London and Edinburgh and stuff, I loved everything blackcurrant flavored and totally missed that when I came back to the States. It's much harder flavor to find here. And then a Irish cream that's a black tea with Irish cream. And then what I found super interesting, because I read her note, so I understand that this is really a thing people do. There's these sprinkles, right? And they're shown on bread. This is not a thing I've heard of before. Apparently, people do eat these sprinkles on bread with butter. So there's 4 different packages. There's, I think this says milk chocolate. That's my best guess. Pure, maybe dark chocolate. I think this is also a milk chocolate. And then it, Hagel? I don't know what that means, but it's, I don't know, but it looks really fun. So because there's one little box of each, I thought it'd be a fun thing to do with the kids, to actually get some bread and butter and put the sprinkles on it and everybody try it, because that's definitely not a thing here and totally sounds fun. Sprinkle bread just sounds like it'd be really appealing and a lot of fun and very different. So I super appreciate that, Marie. I hope you had a really lovely Christmas. I know you said you weren't going to be able to make it home to Norway for Christmas, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas where you were. I got, like I said, some other lovely cards. I got a wonderful card from Anna of My North Knit Corner that had some handmade ornaments in it, and I've already packed up the Christmas stuff, and I did pack them away with the Christmas things, but they were gold and just really pretty. And so, and I, like I said, lovely Christmas cards from other people as well. I kept all the Christmas cards, and I do each year. And next year, I want to get them out a little early and go through, and hopefully people don't mind me cutting up their Christmas cards, but I want to go through and cut out pretty bits of the Christmas cards and laminate them for bookmarks and actually attach them to gifts and like tie them to the ribbons on gifts and stuff. And so you take something and make something useful out of it to give it a second life, something pretty, and then also decorative. So I can use it like as part of the gift tag, but it's still a useful thing, not just something that ends up in the trash. And so I'm kind of excited about that plan. Let me know what you think. I think some Christmas cards will lend themselves better to that than others, but I just think it could be a fun thing to do to like upcycle those Christmas cards rather than just throwing them in the recycle bin. I know they're pretty to have out all Christmas long, but then what do you do with them after? If there's something else interesting that you do with your Christmas cards after the Christmas season has passed, I'm very interested to hear it, or any holiday cards. I'm just curious. I just want to know what people do with those things. So yeah, let me know. I think there's one other thing I want to talk about before I hop off and run get my kids. I don't know about you, but I am a paper planner person. I like to write things down and to decorate and doodle in my planner. And for that reason, I get a paper planner every year. And I'm always super excited to start my new planner. And I know that Nicole, Professor Purl, is also a paper planner person and gets excited about a new planner. But I just wanted to share my planner for this year and how I plan to use it to track my knitting as well as my daily life. So this is my planner for 2023. It is an Erin Condren Life Planner. Is the vertical layout, which means that it has 3 boxes for each day plus lines at the bottom. And then each week there's also a notes column and then a little calendar that shows the whole month. But I got the I forget what they called it this year, but you can get more of a grayscale interior. I got the one that's more colorful. And at the beginning of each month, there are pages, and there's also like inspirational quotes and things. There's a goal setting section, which I have not done yet. It says a goal is a dream with a deadline. But then there's a full month layout, which this year, I used to put events on it, but this year I'm actually using it to track when I have cast on and cast off things. And then there is a notes page at the beginning of each month, and then kind of like a monthly goal setting area. And the layout this year is very similar to last year. There is a section with 4 bullet points, a lined section, a dot grid, and this big blank area. So the big blank area this year for me is going to be a skeins knit / stash down area. How many skeins have I gone through of yarn and gotten them out of my stash? And then if I did buy any, I need to be honest about that here too. And we're going to see if I can work my way through some of my stash. And then also, I'm going to put knit goals or things that I need to accomplish in January. So like this one, I have my Eclair sweater, yoke plus 1 sleeve due before February. And then at the bottom, I'm doing the same thing I did last year, where each month I have an area for cast on and an area for completed works. And I know you can't read it very well because I use lots of different colors, and I did write temperature blanket in yellow. It's hard to read. But that's how I'm organizing my knitting so that I have a summary overview for the month. But then sometimes it's nice to know what I've done on a particular day. And I'm just going to show you a blank section. I didn't use the very first week of the year because it was also in my other planner. So it's just blank here. But when I'm using my planner, I usually sit down. I have no idea what I was just in the middle of saying because the vet called and had an update on my small dog. And he is responding really well to medications. He's going to come home with a new heart medication and also an appetite stimulant, and we will go from there. So good news on the doggy front. He is weaning off of oxygen, and they said that I can go pick him up this afternoon. So yay, positive news. But whatever I was saying about, I think it was about how I use my planner on a daily basis. I usually try and sit down on Sunday and plan for the entire next week because my planner runs Monday to Sunday. So like on Sunday the 1st, I would sit down and plan for the whole next week. Oh, goodness. I think I have fiber in my nose. But anyway, what I do is I do morning or school and work, depending on if it's weekend or weekday. So on a weekday, on a work day, I would do any school stuff for the kids and anything work related that I needed to know about in the first box. In the middle box, I would do anything, any after school activities, evening plans, anything I needed to know about for after school. And then in the bottom box, I actually track knitting progress. I will track like, I have personal plans already in there, so I don't want to show this week. I use a lot of stickers and fun things in there, but like I noted on Monday that I joined the Eclair in the round and continued on the yoke increases and the cable pattern and added length to the Cumulus body. And then I noted yesterday that I started the temperature blanket because I'm always a day behind, so I waited till I had a couple days worth to do. I may be doing the temperature blanket like once a week for a while the rows are still really short, but I was excited to start. So I noted that I started the temperature blanket and that I made progress on the Eclair. And so just each day in that bottom box, I make myself a little note about my knitting. And I make a note if I film an episode, so I just track progress there, make myself little notes in that bottom box. And in the very bottom lines down here, if there's something I need to remember about my husband's work schedule, I'll make a note of it. If there's, if I do meal planning, I will put that on one of the lines in that bottom box. And then on the side, I will do things like reminders, stuff I want to remember to order from the grocery store, just any little notes and things. And a lot of times I'll put a water tracking sticker here. And just try and track my water intake to make sure that I'm keeping up with those kinds of things. So I love having a paper planner I can scribble in. I love the Erin Condren Life Planner. On this one, I put a picture of my family on the back from a couple Easters ago. But I've been using the Erin Condren Life Planner for quite a while, and I can highly recommend it. I love it. You can change the covers, so I can swap out any of my old covers that I have with this new one. Like I said, I use a lot of stickers and stuff to motivate myself to do it because the planning really, really helps me. I think, and I'm hoping to actually get in with someone to discuss this, but I think that I do have ADHD potentially, and I'm very disorganized and messy and stuff, and the paper planner helps me in a way that a digital one doesn't and can't. And I just need that tactile and pretty way to do it. And the stickers just help me stay motivated to stay on top of the planning and to do it. And it is the only way I remember to get my kids to all of their activities and remember birthday parties and all those other things. There's just so many things with kids. So it's just a necessary part of my life. And I love that I found something that works really well for me. I tried moving to smaller, not quite as heavy planners and stuff, and I just never felt as good with them. This one, even though it's heavy and takes up a lot of space, it keeps me on top of everything. So that's how I'm using my life planner this year to actually track my knitting. So it's just a step further than what I took it last year. I did the same thing with the daily details and then the cast on and finish, but I didn't use those top sections for goals and stash usage and all those things, which I am going to this year. So excited about that. And I just realized that there's one thing I totally forgot. This is going to be a long podcast. I don't usually do them quite this long. At least I'm assuming it's long because I film in small chunks, because otherwise my computer goes, So I forgot to share. I did the Shop La Mercerie winter sock swap, whatever it is they call it. Signed up for that in like November. Got paired up with someone and we exchanged gifts. And I have them all here. And I will put her Instagram here in case you would like to check her out. But her name is Rebecca, and her Instagram handle is Rebecca's Colorful Knitted Journey. I will try and remember to put that at the bottom. Anyway, we got to know each other by chatting on Instagram, and then we exchanged swap boxes. And I opened mine not too long after it arrived, but I know she held hers until Christmas Eve. So I didn't want to go like posting all over the place about it until she'd had time to open hers. And I really hope she loved it. On Small Business Saturday, there was a trunk show at one of my local yarn stores for a local dyer. And I was super excited to shop for her at that trunk show. And it was really nice yarn. And then, of course, I included other goodies. But let me share with you what she sent me, because it's awesome. So the first thing was this String Theory Colorworks Continuum sock set. 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon. And it is in the colorway Beta Boswellic Acid. It says it has a stripe pattern of 6 rows Aramanth, 6 rows brown, 6 rows dark leaf green, 6 rows seafoam, 6 rows sour apple green, and it does say stripe width will vary depending on gauge and sock diameter, but it is, according to the label, 537 yards of pure awesomeness, 491 meters of squishiness, 125 grams of fabulosity. And of course it is, like I said, self-striping, and it does have the contrast mini, and it is so squishy. And it had a little marker attached at the top of the skein, which is just a little red gem, but super cute. There was also a second sock yarn in there, which the only requirement for the swap box was that you send a at least 100 grams of sock yarn. So already this was above and beyond. It's 125 grams. And then she also sent this West Yorkshire Spinners Signature Sparkle 4-ply, which I adore. It's it's so much fun. So I'm excited to knit that up at some point. But, you know, it's a huge, squishy 437 yards in a 100-gram ball. And it's a soft sparkle, it's not super soft for the sparkles themselves, but it's softer than some sparkles, and I just really love it. Then she sent some other goodies. There are Werthers in this bag, and she found me this cameo, because we talked about things we collect and stuff. So from, I assume, an antique or Etsy dealer, she found me this cameo clip. See, it's got a clip back, and it's a flower, a bunch of flowers. Anyway, it's super cute, and I've just like the other gifts, I've been trying to keep this all together so I could show it off before I used up any of it. But also this dark chocolate covered honeycomb, yum. and a big old Better Homes and Gardens soft cashmere and amber candle. So nice big 2-wick candle with the wooden lid. And I was just so excited to get this in the mail and a lovely card with it and everything. And I really hope that Rebecca loves the things that I sent her. I couldn't decide on just one, so I picked up a main skein, but also 2 minis from the trunk show, so that she could do something fun with those, and they all coordinated. And I'm trying to remember what else I put in there now. I'm pretty sure there were stitch markers and there were treats, and I just kept stuffing things in there because I would find things that I'm like, oh, she would like that. Oh, she would like that. And so it was a pretty full box by the time I mailed it. But anyway, Rebecca, if you're watching, I really hope that you enjoyed our swap. I very much enjoyed our swap and getting to know you. And it is nice to have another knitting friend because you can never have too many knitting friends. And now it is literally the minute I need to walk out the door to go pick my children up from school. So I am going to go. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know that we still need to get into the knitting plans and all the other things, and we will get there hopefully in the next episode. I can either do the retrospective or the knitting plans, and then the one after that, obviously, keep on with those things because I know that I enjoy watching those episodes a lot from other people. So I really want to get one put out there. But thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community. I would love if you would give the video a thumbs up, if you'd give it a follow, if you really enjoyed it, share it with a friend. Thank you so much, and just have a wonderful day. And I hope that you get some quality knitting time and just do something that brings you joy today. Take care.